thank you all for coming and sharing your experience and expertise. Ms. Lewis, I wanted to try to understand better the charter for EXIM. Isn't the charter actually passed by law?
The charter is passed by law, yes. Yes, Senator.
Am I correct that in that law, it says EXIM reaffirmed the responsibility to review projects for environmental impacts, including, quote, effects upon the global commons?
Senator, well, first of all, I just really appreciate the work that you've been doing as you call attention to these types of issues. We look and evaluate each of our transactions against our charter and our statutory requirements, and they're all done on a case-by-case basis.
Yes, but you didn't answer my question. Are those 4 words in your charter that has been passed by law that you shall consider, quote, effects upon the global commons?
Well, our team does extensive due diligence.
No, I'm just asking, Senator, is that in your charter or not?
From a legal perspective, our charter is very clear that Congress has given us.
You don't know if those words are in your charter or not?
Those words are in the charter, yes.
Okay, they are in the charter. Thank you. That's what I was asking. Does it also say in your charter that your procedures, quote, shall permit the board of directors in its judgment to withhold financing from a project for environmental reasons?
Senator, it also tells us that we cannot discriminate against applications.
I know, that wasn't
on
my
our
question.
Industries and our
I'm just asking you about this particular clause.
Congress has definitely made it very clear about the statute and charter of EXIM Bank.
So it shall permit the board of directors to withhold financing from a project for environmental reasons. That's in your charter, yes or no?
The charter basically, Senator, allows us
why can't you just answer the question? Is it in your charter or not?
It does have it in our charter.
Thank you very much. Now, you have this non-discrimination language in your charter as well. And it says the non-discrimination prohibition starts with, quote, except as provided in this act. Now, those other 2 clauses I just read to you are provided in this act. Is that not right?
Senator, one of the things that has occurred is that I don't have the authority to make changes of any magnitude unilaterally.
I'm just fascinated that you won't actually answer the question. I'm just reading you from your own charter, and you're head of the operation. I'm just trying to establish for the record that this is what the charter says.
Our charter also gives us other explicit things that the EXIM Bank has to do about non-discrimination and no prohibition against size, sector, or industry.
So I just read to you, except as provided in this act. Is that not the qualification on the non-discrimination clause? Okay, I know you don't want to cooperate in this line of questioning. And I'm really puzzled as to why that is the case, because the charter is very clear. It gives you the power to approve or disapprove projects according to the impact on the global commons. It says that the non-discrimination clause is subject except as provided in this act, and the environmental provisions are provided in this act. It says that explicitly shall permit the board of directors to withhold financing for a project for environmental reasons. I believe that you all are deliberately evading the responsibilities you have under this charter as written, and I am extremely disturbed about that. Are you aware of how much damage carbon pollution and methane pollution are doing to the global commons?
Senator, I truly understand the concerns that you have. I will continue would love to work with you and your staff on these concerns to outline for you how EXIM looks at all of our statute changes.
So you're aware of my concerns, but my question was, are you familiar with the damage that carbon pollution and methane are doing to the global commons?
One of the things, Senator, that I have done repeatedly at EXIM is how we have sought to work very closely, understanding how climate change is a real threat. We understand the work that we have to do, and we have been moving very aggressively in that work.
So you do understand the damage that carbon and methane are doing to global commons. That's a yes?
I understand that how we have at EXIM Bank supported very large green energy projects, some of the largest ones in the history of EXIM. I totally share.
Why is
I
it so
understand the
hard?
concern
If you
that
actually
have.
know the science, why is it hard to say, yes, I understand the damage that carbon and methane are doing to global commons? Why is that?
Senator, I can't comment on the science.
You can't comment on the science? Do you ignore the science? is your
No,
point?
EXIM looks at each transaction, Senator, on a case-by-case basis.
Well, by case, some do a lot of environmental damage. And one of the great mysteries is why EXIM is proceeding to explore financing for an LNG development in northern Mozambique. Now, LNG is interesting because we call it liquefied natural gas, that's the industry term, but anyone familiar with the chemistry of it, this is methane that's liquefied. You're familiar with that.
I'm familiar with that.
You're probably also familiar that methane gas has a much higher heat-absorbing, heat-trapping power ounce for ounce than carbon dioxide.
I cannot comment on the
I really encourage you to learn the science then, because you have a responsibility under your provision to weigh environmental reasons on projects and to interpret or understand the effects on the global commons, and that you have to educate yourself
Yes.
about. If you're not educating yourself about
Our
that, you're
team
not
does
doing your
educate
job.
us very well, Senator. They do exceptionally due diligence, our engineers, on all of the projects that we do. On the one that you're specifically speaking about, there has been no decision on that particular transaction, and also that was a transaction that was done long before I came into office, and no final decision has been made. I definitely commit, Senator, to reviewing any of these transactions with you in a confidential manner.
Well, as you review it, I hope you'll take a chance to actually pay attention to the science that you say you don't like to weigh.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that our team does exceptionally due diligence in all manners of these particular projects. And as they pass review, they're done in accordance with our EXIM.
So they do weigh the science and impact on the environment.
Our team, I would love to make our engineers and environmental people available to you, Senator, to go over exactly how on that particular project.
Well, of course, you're in charge. You're the head of
Yes.
this operation. Mm-hmm. The buck doesn't pass down to say, I'm going to ignore the science and let my engineers tell me that do whatever, not when you have responsibilities on this charter that you're ultimately the person accountable for.
Yes, we do.
So let me explain a little bit about methane, since it seems to be a mystery here. When it's produced out from under the ground, it leaks all over the place. And we have massive observations of those leakages. We have on-site, we have UAV observations, we have satellite observations. That leakage makes it extremely damaging for the amount of energy that it delivers. It's estimated that if it replaces local coal, it's equal in its climate damage to coal. However, when you spend extra energy turning it into a liquid, you've now spent a huge amount of extra energy. You then spend a lot of extra energy transporting it overseas. You then put it into a leaky gas system somewhere around the world, because all these systems leak. It's estimated by one study that if you have even 0.2% leakage, it's equal to local coal. Most systems leak far more than 0.2%. All of this means that this LNG is far worse than local coal. That's the basic understanding of scientists around the world. So you're supporting, potentially, because you said it's under consideration, a proposal to establish a huge American investment in something that's worse than local coal and has massive impacts upon, to quote your charter, the global commons. Are you going to take into account the enormous climate change impact of liquefied methane gas when you consider financing this project?
There are numerous things, Senator, that our team, our technical and our legal team, take into consideration, our environmental team, and we would be happy to come and brief you on that, on those specifics.
So you're saying, yes, that is one factor, not the sole factor, but one of the factors you will be taking into account.
It is numerous factors that we take, and I at this juncture.
Well, are there
I would not
numerous
want to say
excluding this or
exactly.
numerous including the climate impact?
I cannot, since we look at each transaction on a case-by-case basis, I would be remiss to be able to sit here and say yes to that. I just know that our
it's such a
team-
mystery to me. Your charter says to consider the impact on the global commons. It says you have the power to withhold financing for environmental reasons. LNG has huge environmental impacts, worse than local coal. And I can't even get you to say it's even be one of the factors you will consider. Not the exclusive factor, but one of the factors.
I can say, Senator, we do an exceptional due diligence on all of our deals and would love to come and brief you about them.
When you brief me, are you going to tell me that this is one of the factors that you'll take into account?
When our technical, legal, and environmental team and experts come, we would love to be able to, in a confidential setting, brief you on any of the specifics.
Why did President Biden pause the approval of more LNG export facilities here in the United States?
Why?
Yeah.
Senator, I basically stay focused on the transactions that EXIM has to do and follow the rules that Congress has put before us in order to evaluate any type of transaction.
So the president's team said, we're enacting this pause in order to give due consideration to the environmental impacts of LNG. You weren't aware of that?
I am aware of what the president put out, yes.
So if
we
the
seek
president
to
of the United
align with the
States-
president on all of our transactions.
The president's environmental team is saying that these impacts are so clear and solid, we have to really weigh how they're evaluated. I think that's context for also considering this project and others. I'm going to spare you any more questioning along this line. I hope you've heard that we put this into the charter for a reason. Ignoring it is not an option. Failing to consider environmental impacts is not an option. Doing additional damage to the world on the most important issue facing humanity is really a crime against this planet. And for you to consider the possibility of continuing to fund massive global climate damaging projects is completely at odds with the protection of the global commons in your charter. It's at odds with your power to withhold financing from a project for environmental reasons, and I hope the EXIM Bank will become part of the solution instead of part of the problem. The chair has asked me to close with the following notes. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to continuing our work together as we move forward in fiscal year 25 budget process. The hearing record will remain open for written questions until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, March 22nd, 2024. And the hearing is adjourned.